And all the brothers and sisters said, amen.
I love that you think we're going to punch him in the mouth.
Fingers crossed, right?
And I ain't butt chugging anything.
We got to do some content here.
In the Venn diagram of fucked up, I'm not sure where that fits, but I'm pretty sure I hit the nail right on the head there.
Works well under close Nick Saban adult supervision.
Randy Sanders has the team dialed in. They are ready to go.
How many bananas do you want out of me?
Don't know. I kind of want to give Vanderbilt some love here.
I love those head games at the two.
You got to weigh all your options.
It's so much fun.
Nobody wants to go Lane Kiffin here? I might go Lane Kiffin here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with a heavy heart that we have to bring an end to Liquor and League's regular season. This is it. This is done. All 13 weeks are in the bag. It is said and done. All the games have been played.
Thank fucking God. Can we move on to something that I might actually be able to win at?
We don't talk about fantasy football here. This is a fantasy football free space. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. I mean, for all intents and purposes, regular season collegiate football is done. We move on to the championship games, the bowl games, the national championship game in January. But effectively, the 2022-2023 season of college football is done. It's in the bag. So
yes, but what about second regular season?
I'm happy everybody's here. It's a somber moment because we have to say goodbye to the regular season of football.
It ain't somber at all.
It's a little depressing.
Gamecocks, baby.
It's a little depressing.
Yeah.
But
fuck you, Clemson. Fuck you.
There's none of that. There's none of that E.H. Taylor left.
No, he's been drinking it.
Just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's move on.
I won't bother asking how everybody's doing. Haas has clearly made his feelings known. So let's go ahead and move on. Week 13 is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even know what we can say. Mac, you took your shots, brother. You shot your shot.
I shot my shot, man.
You did. You got lucky on some.
I think Grinch was sweating it a little bit at first.
Yeah.
But then, when Georgia was struggling against Georgia Tech, I'm sure he was a little nervous. But
not that one. That actually wasn't the one that I was worried about. I knew it was just a matter of time. It was everything else. I was like,
It was Auburn coming out of the gate trying to compete. It was Florida trying to come back and win. Arkansas trying to come back and win.
I mean, Vanderbilt trying. Oh wait,
no, they didn't.
They didn't get off the bus.
They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go ahead and run down our list. Look, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this particular week. We will. Obviously, there's some buzz about this week. Haas, I know you have some things to say about this week. Mac, you shot your shot. But, let's go ahead and look ahead to the SEC championship. We're going to have a few more picks. Grinch, you finished the regular season one behind Haas and I. I apologize. I'm not sharing my screen.
Fucking amateur hour around here.
Fucking ridiculous.
Fuck you, Louisville.
So it is the first time in 3 years our back-to-back champion and Grinch Smart has not been leading at the end of the regular season. Smart. He is actually one game behind. Now it's only one game behind, right? So you can make the argument there's still some wiggle room, but your picks are really limited at this point. So yeah, let's go ahead.
Luckily, I know you're all going LSU.
Yeah. Are we that transparent? After 30 years, you can just read
You already told me what you're gonna pick, bitch.
Gonna read it. I was gonna go ahead and just load up the screen and be done with it, but Haas is like, no, let's wait. I'm like, okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our list of games. So we started the week with Mississippi State, Ole Miss. I made a calculated judgment call here. I had my wild card in my back pocket. I went Miss State, and I thought, okay, if I use my wild card pick, can't take it with me. It's like a timeout in collegiate football, right? They don't go with you, so you might as well use it. I wasn't likely to burn it in the next 4 games, so I said, okay, I'm going to take a calculated risk. I use my wild card. I swap my pick from Miss State to Ole Miss. Looking at the stats that Ole Miss has kind of dominated this game in the last decade, I thought if I'm right, then I effectively remove Haas from the equation, because aside from that pick, Haas and I are tied everywhere down the line. I knew it was a gamble with you, Grinch.
Can we speed this up? You were wrong.
I was wrong.
You lost.
Clearly, I was wrong, and I lost. Now,
You're
but
quite
again,
the storyteller.
I shot my shot because I thought at least I remove Haas from the equation, because I'm beating him in the other league, in the tiebreak league. So I was like, I'm going to roll the dice here. And you're right, Mac, I fucking lost. You, however, did not. You went Miss State. You were the only one that did.
Oh, again, only because I had to, right? On paper, if I wasn't pushed to do it, I would have picked Ole Miss as well.
Well,
I
again,
think they were the more logical choice.
It was like a 3-point spread. It
Right.
could have gone
it was
either
a
way.
tough
We
call.
all knew it. We went with gut and instinct. So
Right. And it was a close game. And, it just didn't fall my way. And of course, that started off. It starts Max week going, all right, I got a game on everybody.
Yeah,
I went,
right?
fuck, I just lost. I could be up a game on everybody, but
yeah,
it is what it is. Alabama, Auburn's, they came out of the gate acting like they were going to make it a game. And then Alabama did what Alabama does and said, no, sir. Bryce Young was Bryce Young. And
it's probably the best Alabama's looked
in quite some time,
if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Yes. Florida State. I went Florida State here. I thought Florida's had an abysmal end to the season, much like they did last year. It was at home for Florida State, and then Florida actually made a fucking game of it. It was a good game.
That was a fun game to watch.
It was.
Yeah.
I saw somewhere else that given some of the high-powered offenses of over the years, it's surprising that is the highest scoring game in the rivalry.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, there was legit no defense, right? Like there was zero defense.
No,
being
there wasn't.
played.
Defenses were like, so do we just stand here?
You were talking about Vanderbilt not getting off the bus. Neither Florida or Florida State's defense got. They didn't even leave the dorm rooms. They just stayed in and played Madden or some shit.
Highly entertaining game.
It was.
It was very entertaining. Agreed.
And unfortunately, Mac, I honestly thought you were going to pull that one out as well.
I thought so, but I mean,
we were rooting for you, buddy.
Yes, we were.
I wasn't.
Look, I will be 100% honest here, Mac. I was like, if Mac wins every one of these picks, I'm okay losing to him.
I know I wasn't.
I wasn't.
I just want you to know that.
I love the honesty.
Fuck the both of them. No.
Grinch made me go through the standings that night. He was like, I want to make sure he can't catch me.
I'm driving the car, and in my rearview mirror, I just see this bear. Coming at the car, and I'm like, why can I only get out in first gear? Can I not get the second gear, please?
But yeah, unfortunately, Florida could not get it done against Florida State. It is what it is. After 3 years of beating Florida State, they take the loss. It is what it is. Georgia Tech with their quintuple option. Actually,
no. It's actually a very regular offense they run now.
Oh, very boring. Oh, that's their problem then.
They actually, and it looks like they're going to hire a new coach, Willie Fritz, Tulane. I think is what everybody's saying
getting the nod.
Is going. Although, absolute credit to the interim coach. I just can't remember his name. That's not meaning to be disrespect. They came with a really interesting concept and attack plan coming out of the gates, and it was aggressive and.
First time you gave up points on a opening drive to any team this season came in your last game against Georgia Tech.
The third time this season somebody led Georgia.
Yeah.
And they still only ended up with 14 points.
Georgia eventually said, no, sir. Yeah. Not today.
How do you see it?
So, Georgia pulled that off. We all went Georgia. Mac, that was one you were like, I'm absolutely not going against
It was
Georgia.
a no-brainer, right? I mean,
secretly, I wanted Georgia Tech, but I didn't want Georgia to lose by much. It had to be like a safety, a field goal, 1 point, because I didn't want any SEC team to fall out of the top four if it was feasible. But everybody loves chaos, and that would have created some massive chaos. No? Okay.
When you say everybody, you mean except for Grinch.
Right. Kentucky, Louisville. This was one, Grinch. You were the only outlier. You went Louisville. This is, I guess, it was one of those pick'ems. You, again, shooting your shot and trying to, and of course, Louisville did not. I don't think they ever led this game, did they? They were always playing from behind, if I remember correctly.
They tied. Well, I don't know who scored in the second quarter for either way. I mean, they scored 13 total points despite being ranked, and they both finished 7-5.
Exactly. So, but Kentucky gave us the win. That helped catapult me because obviously I lost the Ole Miss State wild card debacle there. Mac, what were you going to say about it?
No, I was going to say, I mean, it's funny. You mentioned this being the end of the regular season. Looking back at where we thought Kentucky was going to go at the beginning of this year to finish at 7-5, I think, it's got to be a huge disappointment for them.
I mean, when you look at the beginning, like the first couple of games of the season, everybody thought Kentucky was going to be a contender.
I thought Arkansas. They were going to challenge Georgia for the top spot in the East. I thought initially.
Yeah. The whole talk was, when they both show up undefeated,
Grinch made that comment early on.
Yeah.
And it ended up being Tennessee going in undefeated. Let me see how that worked.
How'd that work out for him?
Yeah.
I can't remember all the coaches, but I know with Lane Kiffin's new extension at Ole Miss, I think him, Stoops, and like one other coach are in like the 9 million range per year now.
Would it be the jackass they just hired in Nebraska?
Let's wait and see.
Within the SEC.
Hugh Freeze is coming to Auburn.
Yeah,
right,
I think
from Liberty.
he's
So let's
got
see what
like
that.
a 7.
Are they bringing Hugh Freeze back to Auburn?
Hugh Freeze is most likely going to be the Auburn coach.
And they're renegotiating Beamer's contract in South Carolina right now.
I really wanted to see Dion get that position.
That's never going to happen.
Just for the hell of it, right? I mean,
he's the wrong color. It was never going to happen.
Well,
I'm
and
not asking you to.
again with Hugh Freeze, it was like, oh, Dion, is Lane Kiffin going to Auburn? No.
And that's why I'm sure they came to the table with that deal for Lane because they didn't want him leaving.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It definitely wasn't for the freaking season they've had.
No.
Well, and here, all right, quick sidebar. I was thinking about this. We all know Jimmy Sexton represents, currently 11 of the 14 coaches. Who knows where it is nowadays with the Hugh Freeze and so forth. But could you imagine if you're Lane Kiffin, you're represented by the guy who's probably also negotiating for the other guy. And so he probably was in an awkward position because Jimmy's like, hey, I'm going to get you more money to stay where you are.
Right.
You just need to stay quiet because the threat of you leaving is what I'm leveraging to get you more money. Meanwhile, I'm locking in this other
guy for the position.
Like, you have to imagine that's going on, right?
Yeah. Or he's sitting them both in a room at the same time going, this is what we're doing.
Yes. Yeah. You two,
shut up.
You're going to make lots of money.
That's right. And I get the point with you saying they're looking at renegotiating Beamer's contract. I mean, Beamer ended 8-4. They just extended Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss ends 8-4. Yeah. And he's going to be getting $9 million a year. So yeah. I mean, I don't see why there wouldn't be a justification to reevaluate Beamer's situation.
Coaches.
We absolutely 100% fucking are. Yeah, from the top down, from Saban to Smart to Lane Kiffin, all of them. I mean, if you're making that kind of money, it's fucking because what did paying $100 million to Jimbo Fisher do for them this year?
Yep. Well,
jack shit, nothing.
Right. It has them at 5-7 and 2-6 in the SEC. They are bottom of the West.
Yeah.
How's that $100 million feel? Douchebags. So that was Kentucky, Louisville. So we move on to Arkansas, Missouri, another one where Grinch took a shot. He was the lone Missouri holdout. The rest of us went Arkansas. And this one you did get lucky, but you're too busy to comment about it, but that's okay.
That's all right. Just keep talking over.
You're showing me a door.
What? I needed another drink. And
the wait staff.
Whoever gets up first. Whoever gets up first.
Okay. I
will say that pick. I legitimately thought Mizzou could win that game.
You've always been high on Mizzou this season.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I mean, tremendous respect for them the entire season and another really hard fought game. I mean, they both end up 6-6. It's a little curious because of the two 6-6, you would say Missouri is actually really happy, just became bowl eligible. And feels like they have energy. On the flip side, Arkansas seems like it's starting to get like a slew of transfers.
Right. I mean, that's another one that you look at the beginning of the season to where they're at now,
and they've gone backwards.
Yeah, that's curious to me. I really don't. I like Sam Pittman. I hope this isn't like a big step back. You know what I mean? But it's just curious to me to see some of the stories of transfers coming out of Arkansas now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the ship he's got to correct, and I'm not sure how he does it. He started last season high and ended mediocre. He started this season a lot of high hopes. They just have an issue as the season wears on. Their sustainability is what suffers. Mm-hmm. And they come out of the gate running, and then they fumble or stumble about game 4, 5, 6, and then it's always an issue after that. So there you go. Grinch pulls one back with the Missouri pick. That was painful for me because obviously I think at the time that game got played, Louisville hadn't happened yet. So I lose the Miss-State Ole Miss pick. I've lost the Arkansas, Missouri, and I'm going, fuck, this dude's gonna leapfrog me in one weekend. This is gonna suck. But thankfully, That didn't happen. So let's move on. The no surprise here. I mean, maybe it was a surprise. Tennessee Vanderbilt 56-0. Vandy comes out. They vandalize two teams back to back, Kentucky and Florida, and then they go into they invite Tennessee in and 56-0.
Yeah, this.
I'm sorry. What?
This was one of those where I didn't anticipate. I picked Vanderbilt only because again I had to make the off pick.
Right.
I did not anticipate Vanderbilt beating Tennessee, but not to get their asses kicked at home, based on the showing they'd made the last 2 weeks.
Right.
So yeah, that was a bit disappointing. Hopefully they're still headed in the right direction going into next year. But boy, that's brutal.
I mean, you're unrealistic as it may be. You're talking about a Tennessee team that's like, what if, chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get some style points and hammer the shit out of this team.
This
at
is
our last opportunity.
Yeah, this is the one thing though I lack understanding with the Tennessee Vanderbilt game. Total yards Tennessee 513, Vanderbilt 254. And it's relatively evenly split between their rushing and their passing. Time of possession, Vanderbilt 43 minutes and 45 seconds. Tennessee 16 minutes 15 seconds. Like I'm like,
well, I mean, when you're throwing 90-yard bombs or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, but
what, actually, to your point though, that's crazy because Milton was 11 for 21 for 147 yards.
Right, he didn't ball out in terms of throwing, and they, Tennessee 16 first downs, Vanderbilt 17. So Tennessee was clearly moving the ball.
Statistical anomaly.
It is to have the possession to be so out of whack. Half the total yardage. Vanderbilt's basically half the yardage that Tennessee got, and only one turnover. So the score line just feels off based on the statistical numbers. So it's just like, okay, it is what it is. But
yeah, I was just looking at that. I'm like 4 fumbles, but only 1 lost.
Yeah. Vanderbilt went for 4th down conversions 4 times. They didn't convert any of them.
Okay. That's just dumb.
So yeah, just a weird game in terms of the stat line, but Vanderbilt clearly they struggled on this one. But they've got multiple SEC wins this season, which they hadn't done in quite some time. So, maybe they're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I think Truman was president the last time they did it.
That's probably true. All right, let's move on. Texas A&M LSU. I don't even know. And again, every one of us have said it at some point in the season. You never know who you're getting with Texas A&M. You don't know who's showing up.
It's unbelievable.
38-23.
Watch, this will be they're going to show up and win. Not that I picked them because I didn't really think it would happen.
Yes, I do recall you jokingly saying that.
Matt picked him and got the win.
Is anybody buying that?
You take that win, brother. But yeah,
I'm going to take
38-23.
No. Who expected this? Nobody.
Yeah. What was this? What was Jimbo saying in the locker room? I mean, the team showed up. Now, how good is LSU? Clearly good enough. They were ranked, I think 5th going into this game, 6th.
Well,
5th or 6th.
I think I heard Achane had like 15 yards rushing in the first half.
Hard to get it done.
And then had like 160 in the fourth quarter or something like that. It's something along those lines. Like he just went off.
Right.
But yeah, it's another one statistically. You're like, I mean, the numbers are fairly pedestrian. But
this is why we love the SEC, right? I mean, struggling Texas A&M, who's finished the bottom of the freaking division, going against what was LSU, 5th, 6th
or 6th, I think, going into this game.
Yeah, and they
beat them.
took them out behind the woodshed. I mean,
any given Saturday,
right? Especially in the SEC, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they would have been 6th in the AP. They dropped to 11th in the AP based on that loss. So AP had them 6th. I think the CFP had them 5th in that game. But so yeah, just a surprise. I did not expect LSU to take that beating, but here we are. And then finally, we got to talk about it. South Carolina, Clemson. We don't have to talk about it, right? Because
it's for at least talking about.
Well, I'm saying for 3 of the 4 of us, this rivalry doesn't mean what it means to Haas, right? Because I was there. I was at the parents with Haas this weekend because he is stateside. Love
You mean
having back in the
the
States.
South Carolina indoctrination camp?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Shit on the walls. Every cup you drink from
Carpet,
is a South Carolina.
you know,
South Carolina.
I wiped my ass with
South Carolina
my
toilet
hand.
paper, right? With your hand. 'Cause I'm not touching that paper. I'm using my hand.
Dry yourself off with a South Carolina towel.
You sleep under a South Carolina blanket on a South Carolina pillow. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the rivalry to the point they do, but I don't know, Haas. What do you say about this? It's been 7 years since you've won.
Yep. 7 years since
They
we won.
they beat the longest home streak in college football was held by Clemson. I think it was 40 games.
40 games.
The longest leading at half streak, 68 games. And when they were leading at half at home, they won 68 games.
Yep.
And you guys came in and beat them.
And they do it in Death Valley.
In
right?
Death Valley. Yes, sir.
And on top of that, we beat 2 top 10 teams in the first time ever in a season. So I mean, it was a great way to end the season. A nice little
trending in the right direction.
So
I think you're right.
I believe that Beamer Ball is legit. I am very pleased with the way this group of young men and the coaching staff really, grit it together and found a way to get it done. I hope Spencer Rattler comes back. I think he's still got 2 years of eligibility. We'll see what happens, but I think things are definitely trending in the right way for South Carolina, and nothing sweeter than watching those Clemson douche nozzles get to take one up the ass at home.
And you, again, let's be honest.
It's a very specific kind of pour.
Right? If South Carolina had ended the season 1-11, and that one win was Clemson, you'd think that was a winning season for you.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, truthfully, if South Carolina beats Georgia and Clemson, most South Carolina fans are like, okay,
we're good.
We're cool.
We're 2-10.
Well,
perfect. We're trending in the right direction.
The only thing I'll offer, or let me just say this.
Say it.
Has everybody seen the latest SEC shorts?
I have it queued up.
Clemson is holding the playoff committee, like the playoff hostage, or like Clemson refuses to come out. We do need to be honest in that Clemson is not very good.
No,
they're not. It's nothing. I'm not trying. I know I am, but I'm not trying to detract from what South Carolina accomplished, because I think it's huge. I think it's huge from what Shane Beamer said of changing the narrative. And this is one of those stories that'll just fade into the background, right? Because it just becomes part of what happens, and then you spin it forward as you will. It's a great win. I'd be willing to bet, behind closed doors, Shane Beamer will tell you, like, Clemson's really not great.
This was not beating Clemson 2 years ago.
I mean,
right? Or
DJ Uiagalelei was 8 for 29 for 99 yards total. He's not a Travis or a Richardson like we saw in the Florida State game. And honestly, I think the problem with Clemson is Dabo. He refuses to see the world as it is. And he keeps saying, like, see, I was right. This is the guy. He's not the guy. He's not the guy. So just focus on Clemson for a second. If that's what they're going to build on, that team's got a problem.
And I'm okay with that.
Haas is like,
not
I'm good.
Fucking strong top to bottom. Now, Florida State clearly showed a meaningful step forward, and I think in a better way. Not better than South Carolina. That's not where I'm going with that, but in a very hard fought. The statistics show 2 teams that just slugged it out. I think for South Carolina, this is absolutely something you just take that momentum and keep running with it. And then I hope it translates into the bowl games. I do. Because it's a team, honestly, it's a team I want to cheer for. I really do. Because I think it's a loyal fan base. I hate Sandstorm and I hate the Rooster call, but I don't dislike South Carolina. I guess so I want to see them do well, and fuck Clemson.
Yeah, agreed. On all those notes, couldn't agree more, sir. Never loved you more, brother.
And we'd be remiss if we didn't say this. South Carolina does break the top 25, and they land in the 20th spot.
Which is the first time they've ended the season in the top 25 since 2011 or 12.
I think that's what you told me the other day.
When they finished fourth.
Yeah,
that was back.
That was the one.
One of the last glory years under
Spurrier.
Yeah.
Yep. So you guys, you do breach the top 25.
And it's worth saying Beamer accomplished something Spurrier did not.
Yeah,
with the back-to-back wins over top,
right?
Whatever it was. Yeah.
And really just a beatdown of Tennessee at the time, a number 5 or 4 or 5 Tennessee, just a legit beatdown of that team. Because I mean, we joked when I was hanging out with Haas, like it was 1 point, you won by 1 point. Well, who gives a fuck? It's a win, right? That wasn't the same as the beatdown you put on Tennessee.
Yeah, I give South Carolina way more stock up
on
over that win because holy crap.
That
was something.
Yeah. You came out and bitch slapped what should have been a kind of preeminent favorite for the college playoff series.
And I guess I'll mitigate some of what I said earlier by saying this. I'm familiar with the years when Georgia would play Florida, and it was like mentally they couldn't believe they could win. And I think South Carolina has dealt with that with Clemson for a long time.
7 years.
Like they're almost partially mentally defeated stepping onto the field because they're like, are we really going to do this?
Well, it's sad because prior to the 7 years, South Carolina had beat Clemson 5 years straight. So, I mean, this rivalry, the best way to describe it or illustrate it is there's not much else going on in the state of South Carolina, right? You've got the Panthers in Charlotte, but you have really no other professional teams. Okay, but the point is still the point, which is South Carolina. This is it. Like, I mean, this is bragging rights. Every year, every year throughout the state, because guarantee you, just about every house in that state is split 50-50, or it's all Gamecocks, or it's all Clemson, and so it's big for an entire year.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, and we've said the same thing. It's true of Alabama and Mississippi. No professional sports to speak of.
Yep, good times. It's like I was telling Thor the other day. I don't care if I lose this league now. I don't care if I lose our fantasy football league. I don't care if I lose our World Cup shit.
That's what I like to hear.
I'm happy. I'm happy right now.
He is
spoken like a true loser.
Don't give a shit.
That's what I like to hear.
In true Haas form, there is a caveat. He doesn't care if he wins, but he does care if you win. As long as somebody else wins, he's okay not winning. We don't want a three-peat.
I see.
So there you go. Week 13, South Carolina rounds us out with the beating of Clemson. As you said, Grinch, maybe not a very good Clemson team. They do fall. They may have been in the conversation at one point, but at least according to the AP poll, they have now fallen to 10th. They are 2 losses, and they are out of the conversation by all rights. By all accounts, I think at this point for CFP, they are not going to be in the conversation as the one and only ACC team that potentially had an option at the CFP. So ACC, you're going after, I don't even know how many years. How many years have they been in the top? At least since we've started this, 2014, 15?
It's in the SEC shorts. Actually,
they've been there a while.
How many years they've been part of? It's like 7 of 9 or something like that. I don't know.
So they are gone. So, real quick before we don't have a whole slate of games. We're going to move on to the SEC championship pick. That's going to be LSU, Georgia. That field was set weeks ago. Georgia and LSU both clinched their spots. What is this? The Chick-fil-A Bowl or Chick-fil-A, whatever it is there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And so we're going to make that pick. But before I do, real quick, I would like to talk. I don't have the CFP rankings. Obviously, they have not come out yet. But the AP poll currently has Georgia 1, Michigan 2, because obviously we can talk about that.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I watching here? Rub that pussy. Jesus, you have no shame.
Ozzy is amazing. He has horrible breath, but he's amazing.
Michigan stomps Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with that, right? Because I hope that knocks them out of the playoff talk.
Well, right. I mean, that was the discussion following that. Is this may be the first time you don't have an Ohio State, an Alabama, or a Clemson
sitting up there in the top 4.
Thank God.
And I don't know how CFP will fall out because, as I was saying, Georgia, they're 1, Michigan 2, TCU is 3, and USC is fourth in the AP. Now I don't know how CFP will fall out, but right now you've got an SEC, a Big 10, a Big 12, and a Pac-12 sitting in the top 4 spots. You've got Ohio State fell to 5th, Alabama 6th, Tennessee 7th, Penn State 8th, Washington 9th, and Clemson 10th. That rounds out the top 10. So,
and this is where you always have the problem, right? Is do you look at it and say, well, a 2-loss, Tennessee team get in over, say, TCU?
No.
Into the college football playoffs.
No.
I don't know. That's always the problem with that whole system.
But will pundits make the argument? Let's assume that CFP reflects AP. Will pundits make the argument? Look, you've got 4 slots in the bowl game, and you've got an SEC, a Big 10, a Big 12, a Pac-12. You've got one from almost all of them. That's how we want it.
They will make that argument,
works.
but
it works, and they're happy with it right now.
Right, which is why, Mac, I don't think they'll make that swap.
I don't know. Like I said, and I'm not picking an SEC team necessarily, but can you truly say that TCU is better than a 1-loss or a 2-loss SEC school when they're just not playing the same competition? I
hear you.
System.
The only thing I'll say is they're undefeated, and they're going to play K-State, I think, for the championship.
Exactly. You just made my point for me.
USC will have 1 loss, and they're going to play Utah again.
But Utah wasn't very good.
Well, but
so you're going to have, again, this is all according to AP. You're going to have a number 3 TCU playing number 13 K-State, and you're going to have a number 4 USC playing a number 12 Utah. Now,
so they're ranked teams, but still,
I would love chaos. I'd love Utah and K-State to both win, because if that happens, it's an entirely different conversation. Because then suddenly you've got Ohio State, Alabama, and Tennessee sitting on the bubble. If both USC and
but is this where it becomes, they need to revamp the system and just say, we're going to take the champion from the SEC, the ACC, the Pac-12, the Big 10 or whatever it is. We're going to take the champions from each of these conferences. I don't care how many wins or losses they have. If they're a 3-loss team and they win their conference,
the answer right now is no. They aren't, because
but I think
that's what the playoff expansion has discussed. If you are a default Power 5 champ, you get a bid into automatically 12, at-large bids or whatever, and then you fill in the tree with all those other storylines. Right now, that's just not the case. I mean, we've seen Power 5 champs get sidelined. I mean, look at the year Penn State won the Big 10 and didn't get the bid over Ohio State.
And that's wrong in my opinion.
So the precedent is solely being a conference champ does not punch your ticket. You need to have checked a lot of other blocks. And so to me, the reason I don't want chaos is you're inviting these other traditional teams to get right back into it. And suddenly we're going to have an Ohio State or an Alabama. And the only one that would be maybe interesting is a Tennessee, but then we're going to hear that holy shit SEC bias, 2 SEC teams. You were just looking for the opportunity.
Well, I was going to make I did want to put it to you, Mac, because you said conference championship, automatically you get a bid to the conversation. So if you were to brass tacks that, LSU beats Georgia. Georgia's undefeated. They're now 1 loss, but they don't get a bid now because LSU beat them.
You have to win your championship. To me, that's the playoffs, right?
I agree.
Like you said, like Chris said, you have some wild cards, right, where you can fill in. Okay, well, clearly we need to put Georgia in there because they aside from that 1 loss, they were undefeated. But if you can go in and knock off that Georgia team, why shouldn't you get an opportunity? That means you're playing and peaking at the right time.
I disagree. Because the season needs to matter. If you lost twice in the season, you are not a playoff team. This isn't college basketball.
What if you lost twice at the beginning of the season?
Who fucking cares? Went on a tear, the season. That's why we love the sport. The season matters. LSU lost twice. Now what? 3? No, twice. Yeah, 3. Tennessee and is it 3 times?
They've got 3 losses.
Yeah, 3.
They're 9-3.
No, you're going to go into the CFP with 3 losses? No.
Well, that's why I was making that argument.
Why? Because you have 3 losses.
But you won your championship. That's the whole
So,
point. Otherwise,
that's
why
not the way it's constructed.
I've got 3 losses. Why am I even showing up for this game?
I have no problem with that.
I get nothing out of it, right?
Yeah, because ultimately all you would get is beating an undefeated Georgia just get you an SEC championship trophy. You're never going to get a nod for anything further after that.
Right. And what you're vying for is in the year 6. Honestly, because if you become the SEC number 2 who is not selected in the top 4, you are potentially going to a New Year's 6.
But unfortunately, LSU is sitting so far outside the bubble. They could stomp the shit out of Georgia, have 3 losses, and still be sitting behind Tennessee and Alabama and not get a 6 bid, even though they beat Georgia.
And if you're in Alabama and a Tennessee, you're going, maybe. I don't know, like just I guess head to head. But then you start to me, that opens the door for all those other 1-2 loss teams to shuffle up. Like if I'm an Ohio State who's not even going to get to play for the Big Ten, who lost to the number 2 team in the country, and that's their only loss, I'd be like, you're going to put a 3-loss LSU ahead of me? No.
Yeah.
No.
But that's where those wild cards come in to then say, okay, well, we're going to bring in now that 1-loss team that maybe should get an opportunity.
Here's the problem. You have four spots. Like when they expand, I'm all for this discussion.
This can't happen spots. Now. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. This season, no.
No, I'll agree with you that.
You know how many Georgia fans would shit themselves if LSU beat them and they said, okay, well, you're the conference championship.
I know,
you get to go.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll burn this fucking place down.
Yeah.
That's right.
The regular season needs to matter.
Right.
It needs to matter.
Right. And under the current situation, I agree. But I think when they expand, I do think that if you win your conference championship, it's just like in the NCAA in basketball. If you win your conference championship, it doesn't matter how many losses you got. If you go into that tournament and win the championship,
how many teams make that tournament?
It's different. I get it.
4 teams.
Well, then let's expand their football playoff to 64. Teams. We'll get rid of the regular season. It'll just be one big long tournament.
Yeah, they're like on a Tuesday that was a total eclipse. Did you win against an underdog? Okay, you're in. Per the Illuminati
look how many
bylaws.
bowl games they have. They can find a justification for just about anything if the money's there. All right, so there we go. Season 3. The 3rd season of Liquor League's regular season is done, is behind us. So let's go ahead and move on real quick, gentlemen. Before we do that, let's just jump into the Offset League. The Coastal Carolina James Madison
route. That is James Madison.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Haas knew. Haas, you didn't clue us in.
Clearly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He had the off pick.
I knew, by the way.
Mac knew. Sorry. Fuck. I'm not used to that, but yes.
No, I think I saw they were favored. I just didn't think it would.
Not like that.
47-7. Yeah. Coastal Carolina goes into James Madison and they really just stomp the shit out of them. So yeah, here we go. Grinch, Mac, and myself all tied with 8 wins. Haas, unfortunately, you kind of trailed off there. And then, like you said, you had to start taking your shots, hoping you could gain ground. It just didn't pay dividends. And you have 6. So there's the tiebreak. Tiebreak 1, obviously, depending on how the rest of our Liquor and Leagues SEC season falls out.
You can take me out of that. Yeah. You keep hovering over my name for the tiebreak. I don't think it's going to be needed.
Right. Look, I was hoping with your picks. I was like, come on, he can do it. Let's do it. All right, so here we go. So it's the SEC championship game when they make the CFP predictions for both the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, which will be hosting the CFP semifinal matches on December 31st. We will go ahead and make those picks. And then when we finally know who is in the national championship game, we will reconvene to make that pick, and we will find out how the rest of the season falls out. So, gentlemen, real quick, let's jump into the SEC championship game, LSU versus Georgia. Now, Haas, you and I obviously tied 87 picks aside, but I'm winning in the Offset League, so I go first. I made absolutely no secret about who I was going for, so I will go ahead and just put mine down. I am going Georgia. Haas, who would you like, brother?
I don't have a choice. I have to go LSU.
Got to go LSU. He's got to make up that ground because of the Offset League.
Yep.
Not paying off. Grinch, I'm assuming Georgia.
Georgia.
He's like, I'll have to take my
I mean,
shot
it's going to be a
elsewhere.
hard fought game. It always
with
is.
that look of disdain, he said, Georgia.
I can't believe you fucking asked. And then Mac, I know you're looking at it going, there aren't enough games left. So what the fuck does it matter?
Can I take Vanderbilt?
You absolutely can. I will put Vanderbilt.
No, I'm going to take LSU, and mainly because of the offset, but I also believe, that they can come in and possibly pull this off.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
and his next conversation, if LSU beats Georgia, his next conversation will be a harshly worded letter to the CFP rankings to go, hey, I think they should get a bowl bid or a championship bid, because they are the conference champions. So there we go. Georgia, LSU, we split 50-50. Grinch has got to make up some ground, at least one spot to tie, 2 to win. 1 will only guarantee you an offset in terms of a tie break. So that doesn't guarantee you a win, but he's not doing it here. So when we get to the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, and the national championship, 3 picks left. Haas, if LSU wins, that puts you out in front. Then things become a little more tenuous for me and Grinch being a game behind you.
Word.
The other interesting fact, and I mentioned this to Haas when I was visiting with him, Grinch 86 wins, Haas and I 87, Mac 81. If you look at the win percentage from the year before, Grinch fell off. He's actually done worse this season than he did last season. Haas stayed exactly the same. He got Grinch, you fell off, but Haas got exactly 87 picks right last year. He got 87 picks right this year. So you're trending evenly, even keel.
I'm painfully aware of the games that slipped through my hand. Mizzou fumbling as they score the winning touchdown.
Of course, there's always those games. I am up and Mac is up. So Grinch was the only one that fell. Haas did not move. Mac and I, our percentages, I think I only went up. I was 86 games last season. I'm 87 right now. So I'm up 1 game. Mac, I think you're up like 3. So your win percentage has gotten better. You were in the 70s last season. You're now in the 80s. In terms of the number of picks.
7 more years, I'm going to win this motherfucker.
Fuck yeah, brother. Keep it up. You got this.
Max playing the long game.
That's it. Right?
That's it.
Max is a little engine that could.
I get out.
They leave. I'll be picking again.
I still be talking.
Yeah. So, and of course, because there are limited, right? I mean, we're going to have the SEC championship. We're going to meet. We're going to talk about that one for our fans who listen.
Think about when we get Texas and Oklahoma in the mix.
Yeah, that'll definitely be an interesting situation.
Because I think we're going away from divisions. When that
I saw something about that. Is that okay? So I wasn't making that up.
We'll discuss that when it gets there. But again, our shows tend to kind of fall off at this point because we have the SEC championship game. We meet, we talk about that. By then, hopefully, once we know our bowl picks, we'll make those for the semifinals and the national championship. But one thing I'd like to do is I'd like to have an episode this season, unlike anything we've done in prior seasons. I'd like to meet and I'd like to talk briefly about each team and just kind of give them a grade about where you think they are this season.
I like that.
And just, based on the kind of the trend of the last 3 years of us doing this, where we think they are this season. Are they going in the right direction? That type of thing. Just, Grinch is like, well, A+ for Georgia. I mean, they're undefeated.
No. It's an interesting
they struggled
comparison to last year's team for sure. I think I actually read a really interesting article that called them perfectly imperfect. Of just how they're, you can't help but compare and contrast to last year's team. But watching them this year, it's like, okay, they trailed a total of 3 times, briefly in some cases, no first quarter touchdowns. And you think that's all amazing. And then you're like, struggled against Mizzou, struggled against Kent State. Kentucky was closer than expected. Yep. So there's some critiques there for sure.
Absolutely. So, all right, gentlemen. Well, there we go. Liquor and Leagues is done. Another great episode. Love doing this with you week in and week out. We're going to have the SEC championship coming up. We'll talk about that. We'll get to the bowl games, the national championship. And then once that's done, obviously, we will wrap this up. But until then, stay tuned. Obviously, I appreciate you guys coming on, doing this week in and week out, giving me your hot takes, your perspectives on SEC football here in the South. Looking forward to doing this week in, week out. And we will do this again next week. So thank you.